Hi everybody, this is Justina with JustynaTHandMade. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through one of my first patterns that I ever created. This is the double zip pouch. It has two zippers, as the name implies. The zipper of the packet, it's created in a way that it's facing up, so when you are using your pouch you have easy access and easy visibility to any items stored in the front packet, and inside you have plenty of space for any larger items you would like to keep safe and organized. As you can see, this front accent packet is created with one of my fabrics that I designed. I will pop a link to the spoonflower.com profile, so if you are interested in sewing with one of my fabric designs, you can do so. Take a look and see if there's anything that catches your eye. The little extra for this pattern is that it actually when you purchase the pattern, it actually comes in two sizes and both are included. And here I have a little surprise because this is the small one. This is a pouch that I created initially when I was writing the pattern, so it's been several years now, and this is my daily pouch that I carry with me in my purse every day, and it's been serving me really well. I just remember I still had it, so I brought it over to show you guys. It's full of my personal items because I just pulled it out of my purse right now. So just for you to see, this is the comparison of the sizes. This is the pouch sewn with the cut list for the large pouch, and this is the pouch that is sewn with the cut list pattern pieces for the small pouch. As you can see, this is it doesn't involve any special supplies. You have written instructions for the pattern, so you can create the pouch based on the written instructions with the top zipper with the tab, or you can follow this video and create the pattern with the longer zipper and the zipper cap end on the end. If you have any questions about the pattern or about the technique I'm using in this video, please leave me a comment, or you can reach out to me on Facebook, in a Facebook group, Instagram, or directly through Etsy. If you are coming across my video for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any upcoming videos, click the notification bell and make sure that you share it with your crafty friends so they can benefit from my tutorials. And now, if you want to see how this cute pouch comes together, please keep watching. To start our project, I'm gonna go through the cuts that I made for this pouch. So first I cut two zipper tabs for the front pocket zipper. They are done a little differently than the initial pattern, so you can follow either way you prefer. Then we have our accent fabric that are interfaced with the Sewfuse Plus. I have my two front pocket lining panels, and then I have my outer back panel and two main lining panels, and that's all the cuts you need for this project. And I think I skipped the top front panel, so for my front panel I'm gonna be using this accent fabric and a piece of waterproof canvas for the top part of our outer front panel. Also, I have two zippers. The shorter one is for the front pocket, and I put my zipper pull on since I'm going to be putting tabs, so I need to have my pull on before I do that. with the main zipper opening. I'm gonna install it a little different than it's shown in the initial pattern, so yet again you can choose which version you prefer. So now that we have everything ready, and as always I'm going to be using Gutenberg Mera 70 thread. So now that I have everything ready, I'm going to start with prepping my small zipper. So I have the zipper cut to the size. I cut those two tabs out of waterproof canvas. You just have to cut them the width of your zipper tape. I'm using zipper number 5, so it's 1.25 inches, and I cut about 3 inches just to have extra. So now I'm gonna place each tab on each end of the zipper tape, right sides together. And I'm doing it this way because I'm using waterproof canvas, so that's a fabric that can have a exposed edge. You can just zap it with a lighter because it's polyester. If you are using cotton fabric or fabric that frays, just follow the instructions in the initial pattern for the tabs. So now that I have my tabs clipped, I'm gonna take my zipper to the machine and I'm gonna sew along each end with the 3/8 or 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, wherever you think looks better, depending on how deep you like your zipper tabs. I'm gonna be sewing with the 3.5 stitch line, making sure I'm back stitching on the beginning and on the end of each seam. So take your zipper to the machine and sew the zipper tabs to each end of your zipper. Now that the tabs are attached, I'm gonna wrap the ends of the zipper into my tab and clip it. And I'm gonna take the zipper back to the machine, and now I'm gonna be sewing just off the initial seam on the fabric of the tab. Again, I'm gonna be sewing with the 3.5 stitch length just to attach the back part of my tab, and this way we're gonna have a nice crisp edge on the front. So take your zipper back to the machine and now sew with the 1/16 of or 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on the top of the zipper tab to attach our backing of the tab. Now that we have the tab stop stitch, we're gonna trim the axis of the fabric. So I'm just pulling it over, just cutting it as close as possible to the seam line. And if you're afraid it may fray, you can give it a zap with the lighter. And now I have extra 4 more zipper tabs if needed. All right, so my zipper is now prepped. Now I can work on attaching it to my front pocket. So I'm gonna put everything to the side. Take the fabric of my front pocket, the accent fabric that I lined with the Sew Fuse Plus, and if you are using directional fabric, just make sure it's the right way up. My fabric is not very directional, but I want this main heart motif to be in the middle and right side up, so I'm gonna pay attention to that. And now I want my zipper pull to be on the left when the pocket is closed, so that's something you should pay attention to as well. So now that we have our fabric, we have our zipper, we're gonna center the zipper on the top edge of our pocket, which is the longer edge. The shorter edge is the side. When I have that prepped, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna base the zipper on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my zipper is based to the top edge of my front outer panel, I'm gonna take one of the lining panels and I'm gonna place the fabrics right sides together. Make sure they are aligned and clip the top edge. When that's done, I'm gonna take my project back to the machine and now I'm gonna sew along this edge with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that the lining is sewn in, we're gonna flip our project right side out. We're gonna finger press the seam. What I like to do, I like to cheat a little bit and I'm folding the seam a little bit over so my lining fabric doesn't peek through. So that's just a little tip of how I like to do it. And now that I have my project finger pressed, I'm gonna take it back to the machine and now I'm gonna top stitch along this seam with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my packet is top stitched, now I'm gonna work on the top panel of my pouch. So I'm taking the smaller piece of the waterproof canvas and I'm gonna place it along the zipper edge, making sure that it's aligned with the sides of my lower panel. And now I'm gonna take my project to the machine and I'm gonna base the zipper on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my panel is based to the zipper, I'm gonna flip the project over and I'm gonna now take the second lining panel and making sure they are both right sides together. I'm gonna clip it along the top edge. And when I have that done, I'm gonna take it back to the machine and I'm gonna sew the second lining panel onto my front accent panel with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that the lining is sewn in, we're gonna flip the project over, but we're gonna flip the whole thing over. We wanna just keep our lining in a downwards position, covering the seam allowance, because now we're gonna top stitch. But what we want to top stitch, we want to top stitch the lining down, making sure that everything else is in the upwards position. So you can finger press again your project and take it back to the machine and now top stitch along this edge inside of your packet, making sure that you are top stitching down your lining onto the seam allowance. So take your project to the machine, top stitch along this edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that we have the second lining top stitch inside of our packet, we're gonna bring our front part of the packet over. We're gonna fold our zipper and bring the packet up to the point where you have your lining. So you want to be just covering your lining seam with your outer. do the same on the other side. Unzip the zipper tiny bit to help. And when you have that done, you're gonna take your project to the machine, and now you're gonna first you can base this in place just to make sure everything stays nice and straight and in place, and then you can base all those 3 layers together so they stay nice and together through the rest of the project. So when you have this part prepped like this, take it to the machine and baste those parts first, and then baste all 3 layers together with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that we have our packet nicely placed and everything is based together, we're gonna work on our top zipper. So we're gonna square off 1 pair of our zipper ends. I like to do it with a lighter, but you can just fold the corners and take it over to the machine and baste it. Now that I have my zipper squared off, I'm gonna place it on the top edge of my front panel. So I'm gonna place it about 3/4 of an inch away of the left side. I'm placing my zipper coil side down. And I'm gonna mark 1 inch from the right edge to mark the place where I'm gonna slip my zipper off the seam. And when I have that ready, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna baste my zipper on, slipping the tail end of my zipper at the 1 inch point that I marked. So I'm basting it, slipping it, sewing a little bit over, and this way this will hold the zipper of the seam. So take your project to the machine and baste the zipper onto the top edge of your front panel. Now that I have the zipper based to the front panel, as you can see, I slipped the tail like I said I would. Now I'm gonna take my outer back panel and just making sure I have it set up in the correct way, because although it looks square, it's not exactly square. So just make sure that you have it the right side up. It's supposed to be wider than taller, just a note. So now I'm gonna mirror what I did with the zipper. I'm gonna take my project, open the zipper, making sure that my panel is right side up, so the right sides of the fabrics are together. I'm gonna attach the zipper, making sure that my edges are aligned. Now that I have my zipper clipped to the back outer panel, I'm gonna take the project back to the machine and I'm gonna baste the zipper on, again slipping it at the tail end at the 1 inch mark. So take it to the machine and sew with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that I have the zipper sewn into the outer panel, I'm gonna split the zipper. I'm gonna take my lining panels and again making sure that I have them the right way around. I'm gonna place them right sides together with my outer panels, and I'm gonna clip it along the top edge, making sure I'm slipping the zipper tail off the top edge. And when I have both panels prepped like this, I'm gonna take both to the machine, and now I'm gonna sew the lining on along the edges where the zipper is attached with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, making sure I'm back stitching on the beginning and on the end of my seam, but also making sure I'm slipping the tail ends of my zippers so they are not caught all the way through the seam. Take your project to the machine and attach the lining panels to your outer panels. Now that my lining is attached, I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna finger press it. When you have the panels finger pressed, or you can take it to the ironing board and give it a press so it holds nicely, you're gonna take your project back to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along those two edges. I'm gonna be top stitching only along the zipper as far as it's sewn in, because I like to give myself some space that it's not top stitch. That makes it easier to then align our top seams when we put the project together. So take your project to the machine and top stitch along the zipper seam at the place where the zipper is sewn in. So you're gonna leave about 3/4 of an inch on each side not top stitch, and do the same thing on the back panel as well. Now that we have both panels top stitched, now we're gonna put our pouch together. So you're gonna bring the outers together, and first of all we're gonna align our top seams. So you want to make sure that they are nicely aligned. Do the same on the front side. You also have to make sure that your zippers align nicely. If for some reason they are not, just shift the panels a little bit. The seam allowance should cover any needs of shifting it, but just make sure you have a nice alignment of the zipper at the front. Now that you have the tops aligned, now you can clip your outer panels along the sides and the bottom, and the same with the lining. And in the lining we're gonna mark our turning hole, so we're gonna use some pins to just mark an opening. Now that both outer and lining are clipped, I marked my opening. I'm gonna take my project to the machine, and first I'm gonna base those two top seams together so they won't shift while I'm sewing the project all around. So take your project to the machine, baste those two places together, add the seam allowance of your overall seam allowance, which should be 3/8 of an inch. So base those places, and then you can continue sewing your outers and then your lining making sure you are leaving this place unsewn, and make sure you are back stitching well at this point, so when we turn our project right side out, this seam is not gonna unravel. So take your project to the machine and sew all around with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my linings are sewn together and my outers, and I made sure that I didn't sew my zipper into the seam, that's something you have to pay attention to as well. Now if you want a boxed pouch, we're gonna box our corners. So I'm gonna measure from the seams 1-inch boxes. Now that I have them marked, I'm gonna cut it out. And now I'm gonna box the corners. I have clipped all my box corners. Just a reminder that when you're folding the seam allowance, just make sure it's folded in the same direction on the bottom, so the seam is not fighting back and forth with it. So I'm folding the seam allowance on the bottom in the same direction, and the same thing with the seam on the in the lining. It doesn't matter which side it is, you just make sure that both ends are folded the same way. So now that we have our box corners prepped, we're gonna take the project back to the machine, and now we're gonna sew our corners with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Make sure you are back stitching well on the beginning and on the end of each seam. Now that we have our box corners done, now it's the moment of truth, so we're gonna turn our project right side out. Give the project once over, making sure everything is looking good, and I think mine is looking nice. Everything came out good. I didn't sew my zipper ends into the seam. I think I'm ready to close my lining, so I'm gonna pull the lining out, fold the raw edges inside, clip, and now I'm gonna take it back to the machine, and I'm gonna sew along this edge with the 1/8, 1/16, whatever you feel comfortable with, seam allowance. I'm gonna try to keep the seam allowance as small as possible, and I'm gonna back stitch on the beginning and on the end of the seam, making sure that my seam won't come unravel inside of my back. My lining is sewn. I'm gonna pop it inside. Make sure it's nice and snug inside. And now the last thing to do is to attach our zipper pull and create a zipper tab. So I want to make sure that my zipper is nice and straight at this point, so I'm gonna make sure that's aligned. Okay, now I'm happy with how the ends look like. And now I just have to decide on the length of my zipper. I think I'm gonna leave about 1.5 inches. And now that you have your zipper cut and melted to the size that you want, you can now create the final zipper tab. You can do what we did with the zipper on the packet, or you can just use a ready-made zipper cap, and that's what I'm gonna do. And now our pouch is ready to use. Our project is now completed. I just added the handmade with love back there because I want everybody to know that this is something I made myself. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This is pretty quick project, but I like the way the packet is constructed, so you can have everything nice and easy, and the opening is upwards, so you can see what you have in your front facing packet, and inside you have plenty of space for any larger items to be nicely stored and organized. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're gonna give the project a try. Don't forget to grab a copy of the pattern so you can create the larger version of, or the whole set with the small one as well. You can follow the initial instructions of the pattern as they are written, or if you want to modify a little bit how the project is put together, you can follow this video. Thank you so much for watching another of my tutorials. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are not yet a subscriber, make sure that you subscribe. And if you have any friends that you think would benefit from this video or enjoy watching the tutorial, please make sure to share it with them. Till the next time.